Joining me now, Wendy Joseph KC, a former Old Bailey judge and former Chief Superintendent at the Met Police, Babu. Let me start with Wendy Joseph. Wendy, you were in the studio with me only the other day. We wondered what was going to happen and what the outcome of this trial and sentencing was going to be. And the families are obviously at the absolute pitch and peak of the most terrible grief. They're so devastated. But are they right? Has this man made a mockery of the justice system?
I'm afraid, Vanessa, that what has happened is that the justice system has played itself out. There are certain options available to a judge in these circumstances, and they are limited. He was pretty well bound to section this man because it is clear that all the medical evidence says that he is mentally ill and needs treatment and that treatment is available. That's what our justice says should happen. He did have a choice about other things that he did. So he could simply send him into a psychiatric hospital, never to be released until he is deemed to be safe. And that's what he's done. The alternative would have been to have passed a different order under a different section, not Section 41 of the Mental Health Act, but Section 45A, which would have meant that he would have received a prison sentence, but begun it in a mental hospital as a patient, in effect. And then when he was deemed well enough, if ever, then to have been sent to a prison to serve the balance of the sentence. So there were options, and the judge has listened to all the evidence and made his judgment.
I mean, as a learned retired judge of so many years' experience, Wendy, are you able to see why it is that the families feel so badly let down and so shortchanged? Because, of course, you can quote chapter and verse of Section 4, subsection 14A. Of course you can. But does the justice system, even if it is painstakingly and punctiliously seen through and enacted, and every single regulation is adhered to by wise judges, is it fit for purpose? Is it serving families who are feeling so desperately betrayed by it?
Well, in answer to your question, can I understand? Of course I can understand. Who listening to those people, who seeing what they have been through, would not understand the grief and at least feel something of what they're going through, though who can share their pain is a different question altogether. Vanessa, I know this sounds strange, but the word justice in a criminal court is different from a civil court, because in a civil court, you can sort of put things right. If there's a claim for money, you can put it right by balancing out the money. But in a criminal court, where you've got a dead body, you can't put it right. There is nothing in the universe that anyone can do to undo what's happened. And it is so appalling. And of course, people must listen to what Ian Coates' son was saying, that it is multiple failures here that have led to the court door. Things that have gone wrong way before anyone got to the court door. And you can't put them right inside the court. All you can do is the best you can in accordance with the law which Parliament has given us.
Let me bring Babu into this. Not a fine day for the police, really, in Nottingham, is it, where the families are saying, we've been let down every step of the way by social services, we've been let down by the CPS, we've been let down very badly with the police, and the police aren't really taking issue with this.
No, I mean, there's not a word I would disagree with the honourable judge. I think she made the points very well, as you would expect. I think the difficulty we have in terms of the services, this was a responsibility by the police. It was a responsibility of the Mental Health Trust and potentially a social worker that may or may not have been within the local authority. And what you've ended up is having a situation where a very, very dangerous man was actually wanted. He was wanted by the police for assaulting a police officer. So that in some ways you have to ask the question why there wasn't more effort to arrest this individual. There are multiple occasions where he was sectioned, Section 136 of the Mental Health Act, and you have to ask the question, should there have been a more substantial order, which is a detention order within a mental health hospital? I suppose all of these questions the families will be asking. But the families will be expecting, if you have somebody wielding a knife and ending the life of three people, you have to ask yourself, the families will certainly be asking themselves why murder isn't charged. But in our criminal justice system, there are two elements to an offence. One is the mental mens rea, and the other one is the actus rea. And I think the judge and the judicial system have to take on board what is required in order for an offence to be found guilty of. But having said that, I think I can fully understand the frustration of the families. You've got two students just out on a night out and being brutally murdered. I think Grace was trying to save the life of her friend Barnaby, and I think there's somebody who should be considered for a George Cross posthumously. I mean, she did incredibly brave because she could have run away, but she didn't. She stayed there to try and help him fight and save her friend. And I think we had a caretaker her granddad, who just loved his family, who's lost his life. So I can understand the frustration, but I think there will be questions asked about how coordinated the police were and the mental health trust.